After the decennial 2020 census, a whole bunch of states are going to be redrawing their congressional districts. This year, proposals of the new district lines will be brought forth by committees and legislatures of various makeup to be approved at state levels. Colorado is the first, and as of right now, the only, state to have a drafted proposal ready for review by the state Supreme Court, in which they have actually gained a new seat, bringing their total up to 8 congressional districts. This means Colorado will have 10 total congressmen and women, which also means that the state now has 10 electoral college votes in the presidential election. So, what's this going to mean for the future of elections in Colorado? Welcome to the Political Lens analysis of the redistricting in Colorado. If you're not already aware, redistricting has been a contentious issue since the inception of congressional districts. For over 200 years, parties and politicians have sought to gain an upper hand in voting districts, which can lead to majorities in Congress and thus ease the passing of laws and furthering political agendas. Recently, redistricting and gerrymandering, the practice of drawing district lines to favor one party, candidate, or constituency over another, have become more household terms, and the public is a bit more informed on them. However, the public is not included in the redistricting in many states. Each state may impose additional requirements for redistricting in addition to the federal requirements, and not all are created equal. In most states, the legislature retains the ultimate authority to draft and enact district maps, and may or may not be subject to a governor's veto. In a departure from the norm, the Centennial State is relying on an independent redistricting commission for the first time this year, after voters approved a constitutional amendment in 2018 by more than a 40-point margin. Thanks to those amendments, Colorado's new map is already being proposed. The commission is made up of 12 members, 4 registered Democrats, 4 registered Republicans, and 4 unaffiliated voters, all of whom are residents from various parts of the state. To enact a map, 8 of the 12 members must approve it, including 2 of the unaffiliated members. They hold public hearings, draft and redraft maps to state specifications, and take the state's varied demographics into consideration. They also have strict requirements put in place before they can make any decisions. The new requirements for the congressional district maps are pretty straightforward, at least in black and white. The National Conference of State Legislatures has a list of all states' redistricting requirements and prohibitions, in which Colorado's requirements, including the amendments from November 6, 2018, are listed for both their legislative and congressional districts. This is paraphrased a bit, but there are a list of requirements on their official website, which we'll put in the description below if you'd like to read more. The formation of the commission was a unanimous decision by the state legislature to put to an amendment vote during the election, which passed by double digits. I'll leave it to a quote from the Colorado Public Radio podcast Purplish, which goes into a bit more detail about Amendment X and Y, and why Colorado felt it was important to have a mostly nonpartisan, independent commission draw the boundaries.
I have kind of heard from a lot of Democrats that, Democrats here control the state house, they control the governor's office, and they're using this commission. But there are other states, as you know, where Republicans have this kind of control, and they're not using commissions. So there's this idea that Republicans are using the non-commission process, the legislative processes in their states, to cement their advantage, both in the U.S. House and in state legislatures.
Right, and I talked to State Senator Jeff Bridges. He's from the Denver suburbs, and he's one of the more moderate Democrats in the legislature. And he says it gives him a bit of a heartburn to think about the potential national implications of which states are using these commissions compared to the states that aren't using commissions.
In red states, we're seeing fewer legislatures being willing to give up that power to an independent commission. And so there is a danger that you will have legislatures in red states drawing districts that minimize the voice of certain people in their state and end up sending a predominantly one-sided delegation to Congress, whereas in more progressive states you have a representative group of people from that state going to represent that state in Washington, which I think is better.
So Bridges, I'm just curious, does he support the fact that Colorado decided to use independent commissions?
He actually does, yes. And the legislature backed this idea unanimously and referred the question to voters. And it's definitely not a small feat to get every state lawmaker to agree on something like this around redistricting. Bridges says even though Democrats do control Colorado's government right now, he's glad they're not in charge of drawing maps, especially because his party may not always be in power, especially in the next redistricting cycle 10 years from now.
Even Massachusetts had a Republican governor, right? There is no such thing as a permanent majority. And so setting up the structures and mechanisms of governing in such a way that they are fair and representative, and that they are constructed to make sure that the will of the people of Colorado is represented in their legislature and in their congressional delegation is always the right thing to do.
Another interesting thing about this commission is that the public is not only allowed to give input about the maps, but also design and submit their own maps to the redistricting portal online. And, gotta say, there are a lot more than we expected, and while many have immediate problems, some are really well thought out and have obviously been taken into consideration. It's honestly good to see some citizens taking an interest in the state's redistricting. But it hasn't been without its issues. Within weeks of coming together, the chair of Colorado's Congressional Independent Commission, Danny Moore, was forced out of his position on April 5th after it came to light that he had made several social media posts where he repeated unsubstantiated claims that the 2020 election was fraudulent and repeatedly called COVID-19 the Chinese virus. He was unanimously stripped of his chairmanship and remains on the commission in a non-leadership role. So, this is the old map, and this is the new map, or at least the new proposed one. And this is the added 8th district. It's just northeast of Denver, cutting off a few chunks of the 4th and 2nd district. It seems to have completely replaced the 7th district, which has now moved a bit southwest of Denver. It has the potential, according to experts and FiveThirtyEight, to create a split in the congressional balance with half Democrats and half Republicans. 4 and 4. But how likely is this? In an article published June 23, 2021, Ed Perlmutter, currently the representative of the 7th District, is going to be the most affected by the redraw. Quote, in a statement, Perlmutter praised the location of the new district, but did not specify in which seat he would run. He currently lives in the 7th District, according to a spokesperson. I support drawing the new 8th in the North Metro area, as specifically outlined in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's proposed map, Perlmutter said. We expect the preliminary map to change over time, and we hope the commissioners will focus on issues of legislative concern and communities of interest as it's required under the Constitution. On that note, who is running to represent the 8th District? While Perlmutter has not officially announced his candidacy, he is expected to make a decision well before the midterms. In the meantime, state legislator Dr. Yadira Caraveo officially announced her candidacy on the 24th of August, and many more are sure to follow. It's pretty clear that the 8th District is a likely win for the Democrats. The real race will be determined in the new 7th District, which is what we'll be looking at a bit more closely today, and will most likely decide the balance for the parties in Colorado. Now, the proposed 7th District is just southwest of Denver County. This is what the commission put out as a preliminary map. As you can see, the map is made up entirely of chunks of Jefferson and Douglas County. Even at first glance, it looks like a pretty decent split. Now, if we put in an overlay of the New York Times an extremely detailed map of the 2016 election and an extremely detailed map of the 2020 election, we see that Jefferson County leans more Democrat and Douglas County leans more Republican. And this is also evident in the vote results from both elections. Clinton and Biden both won Jefferson County, and both also lost Douglas County. However, Biden managed to stay within 7 points of Trump in Douglas County, beating Hillary's percentage by almost 10 points, and only strengthened the Democrats' lead in Jefferson County. So we can tell this is going to be a bit of a split in this district. And with the results we see right now, I would be willing to give the new proposed 7th as a likely win for the Democrats, especially after the shift from 2016 to 2020. However, it is possible the dip in Trump's results in both counties was caused by his unpopularity over the last 4 years, so we'll look at one last piece of data that may clear it up. There was another big race in Colorado in 2020, and that was the Senate race between incumbent Republican Senator Cory Gardner and former Governor John Hickenlooper. These are the results from the two counties that make up the proposed 7th district. It's pretty remarkable how similar these are. They're only a few decimal points from mirroring each other, but the part we need to pay attention to is the turnout in both of these counties. Combined together, out of 596,493 people that voted in Jefferson and Douglas County, 308,172 people voted for John Hickenlooper, which is about 51.66%, and 288,321 people voted for Gardner, which is about 48.33%. Now, we know that the county results are not always going to be exactly representative of the new proposed 7th district. However, this still gives us a pretty good idea, at least statistically, of what we can expect. And when looking at the map, it seems most of Jefferson County is still intact, with a bit of a population of the Denver suburbs missing in the northeastern part, and about 40-ish% of Douglas County not included, but it's the more rural areas with not as much population. Right now, to me, it looks like a pretty even split toss-up. It may all come down to the candidates that are put forward, and how well they can campaign in the opposite parts of the new district. But again, this is mostly speculation, and we will likely see the 7th redrawn before the deadline. Speaking of which, the deadline for submittal of the new proposed map to the Colorado Supreme Court is October 1st of this year, and the deadline for the final approval, after any necessary revisions, is December 15th, 2021. So we'll be back in a few months to review whether the proposed boundaries have changed, and if the predictions we've made in this episode will hold true. But as of right now, I'm giving a slight lean, literally a +1 or +0.5 point advantage to the Democrats in the proposed 7th district, as well as the incoming 8th district, which I believe they have a little bit more of a chance in. And come 2022, we may see 5 Democrats and 3 Republicans on Capitol Hill representing the Centennial State. Thanks everyone for tuning in. A special thank you to the Colorado Public Radio for the excellent Purplish podcast. I recommend that everybody go check that out. Please consider subscribing, and if you like what you're seeing, please consider supporting us on Patreon. There are more videos and eventually a podcast on the way, so be sure to come back and see more election prediction videos during the upcoming midterms, as well as some other content I've got coming in the works. Thanks again, and we'll see you later.